Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Crip. This is the first episode of a series where we go in depth into different Skylanders skill sets, covering things such as their upgrades, playstyle, and strategies in order to use said Skylander most effectively. In this episode, we'll be talking about the most recent addition to my personal collection, Zap. To be more specific, we will be covering a fully upgraded Zap using the Slime Serpent path in Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. Zap is a ranged, high-mobility Skylander that excels at overwhelming enemies with a large amount of small damage attacks. He is at his best when fighting melee enemies that he can slow and then melt their health bar with a barrage of different attacks. He is best suited for players who like to have control over the battlefield and having the ability to get in and get out while setting up massive payoffs. Zap's first ability is called Lightning Breath, a very basic projectile that you can fire off in bursts of 3, dealing 9 damage per bolt. It's not a very good rate, but it's also not Zap's primary damage output. It's a decent poking tool, especially considering that it has pretty far range and travels pretty fast, but it's not good at taking down big high health enemies. Zap's second ability is Sea Slime Slide. Holding the secondary attack button will cause Zap to perform a dash where he will leave Sea Slime behind him. It's a great mobility option with not only having a decent speed boost and range, but also great handling. This allows for Zap to dodge projectile attacks better than most other Skylanders just because of how well you can turn while using it. There's also very little startup and end lag, meaning that chaining multiple slides together works extremely well. The Sea Slime left by Zap will slow enemies and also deal damage to enemies when it's been electrocuted. However, if you are using the Slime Serpent path, the slime will automatically be electrified when using the slide. This is Zap's payoff ability that I mentioned, is when you are able to get enemies onto the electrified slime, the damage adds up fast. On top of that, the enemies will be slowed significantly, allowing you to just spam projectiles from a safe distance. Zap's third ability is Wave Rider. When pressing the attack 3 button, Zap creates a wave and launches it forward, dealing 15 damage and travels through enemies. This is a great attack to deal lots of damage to small enemies at once with its large hitbox, while also hitting any pesky ranged enemies in the backlines with its ridiculous range. It also pushes back flinching enemies, which just makes it even better as a get off me tool. Now on top of that, if you hold the attack 3 button, Zap will ride the wave, giving him another great mobility tool, also allowing him to push through large crowds of enemies while at the same time dealing damage. There is some wind up time before the wave actually moves, and in that time you can slightly redirect where you want the wave to go. You can also let go of the button early as well, and the wave will travel the rest of the distance. Things to note are that you can't have more than one wave at a time. Attempting to fire off another wave while one is still traveling will cause the first wave to vanish. Also, while riding the wave, Zap can use Lightning Breath, allowing you to stack even more damage on the wave. There's completely no downside to doing this, so not utilizing it is just leaving damage on the table, so always take advantage of Lightning Breath while riding a wave. Zap's Soul Gem is called Love for the Sea, allowing Zap to recover health whenever he is in water. Unfortunately, it's just too situational to matter because of how level dependent it is, meaning that most of the time it's just a waste of a soul gem. In Spyro's Adventure, it does work with any instance of water, however. Obviously, there's the large bodies like in Leviathan Lagoon, but it also works in things like the puddles in Goo Factory. It's only 5 health a second, meaning that it won't decide a fight or save you 100% of the time, but it is a nice buffer when your health is low and you have a break to just heal up. Zap's strength comes from having high mobility and map control and using his 3 below average damage attacks in tandem with one another to stack tons of damage on lots of enemies. You can't get by using just 1 or 2 attacks like Drobot or Stealth Elf. All 3 are essential to Zap's gameplay pattern and to decimate in combat. It is, however, quite difficult to deal with fast ranged enemies as they are a lot less likely to be caught in your slime, which is where a large portion of his damage comes from. Sometimes with Zap, you just have to be patient and take your time, because rather than run at ranged enemies head on, he is much better at dodging attacks and poking when he can. His overall lack of a soul gem does hurt him a lot when it comes to variety, but he is still very capable without it. Recognizing enemy behavior is crucial when playing Zap, as it allows you to set up your slime and maximize your damage potential. Knowing where an enemy will be helps a ton with setup, since the slime path can't be put under enemies directly, the enemy has to be the one to move onto it. If you're not sliding with Zap, you aren't playing him. Simple as that. His slide is just better than basic movement because of how well it handles. So you want to be sure you are sliding constantly in and out of combat. Even if you aren't playing around the slide, you at the very least have it there for potential damage to enemies that you're not focusing. Overall, Zap is a very strong and very fun Skylander to play. His movement options paired with his range and large hitbox wave attack make him evasive with options for almost any situation. He has speed, range, area of effect, and a little bit of sustain. He's one of the few Skylanders where all three of his attacks are important. Most Skylanders you can get by just using one or two different attacks, but Zap is weakened significantly if you aren't using them all. If you love the dopamine release from seeing tons of damage numbers on tons of enemies at once, then you'll love Zap. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching and making it this far into the video. Hope you enjoyed, and if you have any requests for you would like me to cover in the next episode, leave a comment. Also consider subscribing so you know when that next episode comes out. Have a good one.